Hi everybody, and welcome back to the long-awaited second episode of Dicemat, the Six-Sided Legion podcast. Today we have both Blayne and Brett, and we're going to look through the balanced dataslate that finally came out. Oh boy, we've been waiting for ages, it feels like.
Yay!
It's about time. We've been waiting on doing the Rattling episode for about a month now, because we've been like, oh, that dataslate's gonna come out soon, hopefully, and it's just kind of dragged its feet. So glad it's finally here. We have a lot, and I mean a lot of changes. So let's just hurry up and get right into it. So moving into the basics, we're going to look at the core rules. We have quite a few changes here. So what do you guys think about the changes that happened for the core rules?
I got some good stuff here, actually. Now that I'm actually sitting here, and because I didn't look at all of them before, but I'm seeing a lot of quality of life things, we'll say. Like there was one in here that, for example, LVO already had this one enforced. The whole counteract can't be used to guard. So that, which I think was a great adjustment. So that one feels good. But then I actually just realized that for Vulcus, they changed, it's the F bullet point, that the small broken rampart on top of the small stronghold is now insignificant.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
The amount of times where people have gone, well, that's heavy, so I'm actually in cover. Oh my goodness, it's driving me crazy.
Yeah, that's actually pretty. That's a good change. I just realized that one.
Glad to see that.
Yeah. Otherwise, let's see. They did so the change to the top vantage point is wild.
Yes, this one is very weird. So, Brett, would you like to explain what happened?
Dude, I can try, but I'll explain what I think it means, and you guys let me know. Blayne and I talked about it a little bit, but it basically it sounds like you can no longer set a model up there where it's the only thing that will fit. You have to put it on one side or the other,
if possible.
And then if
not,
an enemy wants to move up there, charge you, it can basically you set it up on the side. It sounds like you set it up on just the side of the board, and you're like, hey, this is it's up here, because you just ignore the normal rules for setting it up in a place it can actually be placed. And you're like, okay, it's here for now until something needs to be determined, control.
So
range
what I've
or
heard is the third story vantage is split into two zones, left and right, and if your model has to be either left or right. If it does not fit within around half, if you have the captain on Angels of Death for some reason on his big 40mm, or even bigger one of the cryptex, he instead he's up there, but you actually take him off the board. He goes into some weird third dimension, and as you were saying, he only gets set up when you need to determine line of sight or something.
Yeah. Which is so strange.
I do also want to point out real quick, insignificant does not mean that it is not heavy. It just means that you ignore it for climbing and dropping. So it is still heavy up there. It is
so
just
it still
ignored
does
for climbing
and cover.
dropping. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
No, it's exposed. It's exposed terrain.
Is it? Okay.
It's insignificant and exposed.
Oh, okay.
So no cover is provided from it.
Okay, well, either way, I'm glad to see that F no longer counts as cover, and we can shoot around that.
Yeah.
But back to H, the third story. Man, just a very weird... In a game where move blocking is pretty common, I mean, I understand why this was changed, but I think this is a really weird way to do it.
And again, I also just want to point out that if you're looking at F, it is not the third story vantage stuff. It is just that tiny little bit that people argued was cover and stuff. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you guys were talking about the third floor.
Yeah. No, we jumped from F to H.
Oh, gotcha. So, okay.
No worries.
So, yeah, H is just so strange, and I mean, this top vantage point has just been an issue since it became a thing. But you know what? I guess this is a good change,
I think it's probably going to cause more problems than it initially did.
Maybe. It is.
I think it'll just be very confusing and very calling a lot of TOs over to clarify and everything else. So But we'll see. Only time will tell.
I mean, at least you can charge things up there now, you know?
Which is, I think that's the main reason they did this, is so that it's not like, haha, my sniper's up there and you can't charge me or shoot me because he's in conceal and the floor is heavy, so
the floor's not, if floor's
light, yeah, but it's
so you
it's so hard to
still
get
cover.
like a team with Seek Light to like get behind the operative anyway.
Yeah.
It's probably just for the best.
I'm also realizing now that they changed, so E for Volcus is also those barrels, which so those are blocking and heavy.
Okay.
What is blocking?
Blocking means that unless you or the target are within an inch, it's not. Oh wait, no. Blocking just means that you can't.
Barred.
Yeah, blocking means you can't draw like line of sight through it at all.
Oh,
yeah,
So it's a little bit easier to hide.
It's
behind
like
those
so
now.
when they initially came out with Volcus, some of the doors on whatever buildings had like a little window, or like little vents.
Right.
Those were classified as blocking, so you couldn't actually even see through them. So.
Oh, so you couldn't draw visibility through it. So I wonder if that's kind of for like the half, like the broken one. If the idea is you can't draw visibility through that.
Yeah, I don't know. That's another interesting part.
Can we get another?
Yeah.
Can we get another
Can we get
errata just to
a second
clarify
balance
that?
Dataslate, please.
Yeah, right.
I feel like we're asking too much to actually finally have this one, so maybe we shouldn't complain too much.
And then note, you can also with counteract, you can now be set up wholly within 2 inches. So Shade Runner can now counteract through walls. Let's go.
Awesome. That's what I love to hear.
Yeah, I think that was
Shade
just
Runner.
primarily because of Fly and how it used to
Yeah,
interact with that.
definitely.
So now Vespids can counteract and fly, but only 2 inches. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, good for Vespids. Yeah, because I'm trying to remember whose video I watched, but the idea was that for teams that either teleport or fly, that's exactly why they can do it.
Yeah.
But overall, it seems like some pretty solid changes for just kind of the core rules. I'm glad to see a lot of this, even if the third story is a little strange. But yeah, do you guys have any more thoughts on this particular set of rules?
No, I don't think so.
Am I understanding so that first one, the key principles, data cards, operative stats, is this? If an operative stats or its weapon stats are changed during an action, apply the change once the action has been completed.
The blue stuff is new.
Right.
So
note the changes.
that could only happen in very specific situations where damage could either get reduced or for something like the what's it called? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on it. The Servitor guy from Inquisition, where he has blast on his plasma weapon. You have to roll for hot in between every single shot. But so like if you get injured or something, your stat doesn't actually change until the entire shoot action is complete. So yeah.
I see.
So what I was thinking of here was Segarak's Jest. That's what I was thinking about. But that's actually a different thing. I was thinking like. And that's actually in the same sequence anyways, so I guess it doesn't...
Yeah, I think they were just kind
that's
of
what my brain
clarifying that weapon rules or weapon stats are included in operative stats, which I don't know why that wouldn't be clear to begin with, but, you know, who knows.
Clarification, I guess.
Exactly.
Alright, cool.
All right, very cool. So now let's move over to the equipment changes. So, looking at the universal equipment, only one change, but I think this is a solid change, actually.
This
I'm glad to
is
see
the
this.
best change of the entire data slate, in my opinion.
Yep.
So
sure.
what you mean
Everything
is
else,
Warpcoven
nothing.
could have stayed the same.
I don't care about Warpcoven, Legionaries, none of it. This change here,
As long as my barricade can be placed farther.
Yes, the change is the heavy barricade can now be placed 4 inches away rather than 2.
But
So,
in all
guess what, guys?
seriousness, no, I mean, this does
is
make
huge.
it more
Uh,
useful.
I think this like absolutely changes the game in Into the Dark, and weirdly enough, Beta Decima.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're able to like actually get a heavy barricade in rooms now, which can't be seek lighted like normal barricades can, and allows you to kind of, I mean, not very far, but definitely like stage in places that you couldn't before. So
Yeah.
The thing is
2
you
inches
can
wasn't-
fit like 3 smaller models behind one of those if you really want.
Yeah.
So like it's definitely a thing.
No, the heavy barricade was a cool piece of kit that nobody used because 2 inches away from your drop zone is... It's not a lot.
wholly
Very hard.
within
And, like,
2 as well.
Wholly within,
yeah.
exactly. So, It was quite limiting. So this, I think this is a solid change. Cool. Well, now moving on to other changes, and while not as impressive as the heavy barricade, the changes for Warpcoven are, I'm glad to see them as well. So let's take a look at those. So moving into Warpcoven, boys, what are your thoughts on all this?
My thinks are that this has been wow, they got like a whole page of changes.
So
yeah, no,
this personally
quite a bit.
reminds me from last edition when Troupe first got buffed, and they had like the most they had like 10 changes, except the opposite direction now, and I am a-okay with it.
Yeah, I guess let's just go down the list, right? Like it's a lot.
I think this is a good one to do that. Yeah.
Here, I'll start with this one because I think this is I'm a big fan of this. So, all right, for boons, Astral Bombardment. So this is it's got additional text now added to it. So this is the one that used to be, it just was Devastating 1, now it's if you select Firestorm or Mindburn, which are the either Seek Light or it used to be Seek, so it basically hits you from anywhere type of thing. Whenever that operative performs the shoot action, you select either Seek Light or Devastating 1 weapon rule for the weapon to have until the end of the action. Can't have both. So,
yeah, that kind of
cool change.
That kind of stacks with the other change that it got. Correct? Where it... Oh, wait. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. Nope, never mind. I'm thinking of something else.
Yeah, I mean, basically, this just makes it so you have to pick one or the other, right? Like it's, I don't know. I think it's a good change. Small, but it's like the thing is the shooting attacks were so annoying, especially Mindburn, because like I said, it used to be Seek.
Oh yeah, that's so that's what I was thinking of, right? It kind of stacks with the whole Mindburn change. Here in a second.
Yeah.
So that way, Mindburn can't also have the Devastating 1, like it used to.
Right, because and it used to be that you just picked, like when you picked that boon, you selected one of your psychic actions to have it. So I guess in a way, it's kind of. Well, I mean, I guess you still have to pick whichever one. Right,
so I actually think that this is. So weirdly enough, I think that this is not really a big deal to Warpcoven, because like they might lose Devastating 1 on one of their spells, but like, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of minor.
Yeah, because they still have the movement to like move up and just like get you on your cover anyway with the Dev 1. Still, like they don't need the Seek Light. It was just kind of convenient for them, right?
I think the thing is this was a long-range annoyance thing, and now if you're using your movement to get up and use it, that's just not as useful.
Or effective, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess that kind of leads us on to the next one. So it was weird. So I guess the boon of Tzeentch, Master of the Immaterium, which I believe is the one that adds 3 inches to the psychic actions, correct?
Yep, that's the one.
Only affects the first part of Temporal Flux, which is the rubber band teleporty thing. So now it only allows you to put the token within 9, rather than also be able to teleport back within 9, which I think is just a nice quality of life thing against Warpcoven.
Definitely. I think that what this limits is people basically just putting it on, another sorcerer and then having them, dive bomb in at the beginning of a turning point or whatever, doing a ton of damage, fighting something, shooting something, teleporting back, and then capricious planning to safety.
Sure.
So this helps a lot with mitigating.
So I think it helps cut down a little bit of that. I still don't know how much it's gonna really affect Warpcoven, just because they can still capricious plan after like shooting and fighting, and then capricious plan dash back in within 6 of the token, and just zap back in like to a building or whatever. Anyway, there's definitely play around it for sure, but it's just a nice change. Nice little, what's it called? Like question answered.
For sure. Good one.
All right, moving on to the next one, Ethereal Warding. So Operatives attacking a friendly Warpcoven operative, instead of having the Piercing 1 weapon roll, now have the Piercing Crits weapon roll. What was it before, actually?
It was just ignore piercing one. Piercing gets lower.
It would decrease piercing by 1. Notably, this does not affect piercing 2 at all. And I was talking to Brett about this, and I think this might be a mistake on GW's part. I think they might have forgot to keep that part included.
That Piercing 2 exists?
Maybe not even that Piercing 2 existed, but just that, like, instead of changing the entire ploy, they maybe meant to, like, add this part rather than...
Yeah, because this now only works against, like, Plasma, but, like, Melta...
Exactly, yeah.
No problem.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's intentional. I think they did this on purpose, because Piercing 2 is already, like, kind of far and few between, especially for most teams. Most teams, if they're lucky, have 1. There's only like so many that have 2 sources.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I don't.
You think it might just be like them trying to be like, hey, those teams that have Piercing 2, you're good to kind of try to counteract these teams.
Maybe,
yeah, mess them up. Mess up those Warpcoven.
Very well could be. I mean, I think this is a pretty damning nerf, though.
100%.
Against a lot of teams. Like, for example, I played a lot of Corsairs. They have 2 sources of Piercing 2.
Yep.
And like this is my Piercing
same
1.
with
Like, this
Aquilons.
feels like, yeah, right. So this feels like I feel like I could actually potentially kill things significantly easier now.
And I think, for me personally, playing against Warpcoven, I think it came up the most when shooting against Zangors specifically. Is like the sorcerers and rubrics were already kind of hard to kill, had a lot of wounds, good saves. The Zangors had like, what, 5 up saves, 9 wounds, so like they were decently easy to kill until they got rid of piercing, and then it was like, oh well, my plasma can't kill a Zangor anymore. So I think it helps a lot in that sense, just kind of being able to take them down and still have Melta and stuff as a threat.
Definitely. So the next one is just Firefight Ploy Psychic Cabal, this was the basically steal a psychic action from another sorcerer within 9. They basically changed it now, so you can't do it if it's one they've already used, like a weapon they've already used that turning point.
Which is good. That's
great. That's great.
Very well thought.
Very simple. Very great.
No more double or triple doom bolting.
Yeah, well, speaking of doom bolting, the damage stat has also been changed from 4/4 to 4/2.
This is pun intended, devastating to them. I think this is crazy. Like, I did not expect them to change this.
You know what, though? If I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure that's what the damage profile was.
I believe it used to be 4/3 Dev 1. Or like Splash 1 or something.
It was definitely Dev 2. It was Mortal Wounds 2 for sure.
Then
it was 100%.
I think it was 4/3 last edition.
Might have been 4/3.
And now it's 4/2, which feels weird. I don't know. I think it'll just help with doom bolting not being as killy.
Definitely. I mean, this thing is.
It's still good, right? It's still good. It's
still really good. It's got lethal 5. It's fine.
Yeah.
But...
Exactly. Moving to their other really good spell for Mind Burn. Its big change is it now has Seek Light instead of just Seek.
Right, like we mentioned before, and it's
Yep.
With the combinement of the Astral Bombardment change as well.
Yeah,
Great change.
I think Mind Burn was always a pesky like tickle monster kind of like play until it wasn't, and they rolled 5 crits, and then your model just was removed off the board. Turning point 1 felt really bad.
You know what? And while we're here, because I'm realizing this also very much affects Mind Burn, 2 things I already have. A light has also been pretty considerably
Changed
nerfed.
to ceaseless. Yep.
A light, used to be relentless. Now it's ceaseless. A lot of the times the strat was to alight something and then shoot it with Mind Burn. It was pretty reliable.
Yep.
Much less reliable now.
Yeah.
Still pretty solid, but like not, if you're missing 1s, 2s, and 3s.
Yeah, and
ceaseless is not
I think if you're like kind of planning to do that anyway, I think you can maybe just save the action to spend a CP and just give yourself ceaseless within 9 of other sorcerers anyway. Like, if that's your opening play or you see an opening with it, like, I think it's better to spend the CP and like save your action for, I don't know, something else, a mission action or something. But
I actually feel like that's kind of interesting that maybe they didn't add a bullet point that says if it already has Ceaseless, give it Relentless.
I'm glad they didn't.
I mean, I'm glad they didn't, but like at the same time, I'm a little surprised because a lot of those rules where they stack the same keyword will say, if you already have it, here's something else instead.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, hey, whatever.
So the next thing that got changed, and this is, it's a change. So it looks like the Temperion operative, the sorcerer, the reconstitution ritual action, it looks like it got changed. So if friendly operatives have already performed this action, you can't do it. That's the, which one is that? That's the heal?
That's the heal.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
So I feel like players weren't really needing to do it multiple times a turning point anyway. But I think this kind of just stops counteracting, stops like sorcerers from taking the spell from the other and healing twice, that sort of thing, which helps. It definitely helps. But
this was definitely one of those things that I think Dakota ran perfectly for LVO. It's like he knew that was something that needed to be changed, and
yeah,
because he had that same thing. He had that same rule.
So his was a little bit different, and I talked to him about it too. His, you could still use the Psychic Ball to take the healing and heal a second time during the turn, whereas this prevents that entirely, right? Because it says if a friendly operative has already performed it, not that friendly operative. So Nate, you want to take on the next one, the little short one?
Next... I'll take the short one, sure. Make my life nice and easy. This one's actually kind of crazy. So this is for basically all the rubrics. Their save stats were changed to 3-up.
It was a 2-up.
It was a 2-up.
Oh my god, that's
it was
insane.
Ridiculous. It was unnecessary because they still have the ploy to basically just a scratch a damage die.
Mm-hmm. Not to mention they could ignore piercing.
It healed. Yeah, it was ridiculous. So
I think we're looking at a lot squish, which is funny to say because they're still very resilient,
100%.
Especially with with all his
but
dust.
They're more in line with other elites. Right?
Yeah, I think it's just gonna feel a lot better for like shooting teams specifically. Things like Khazarkin, Vetguard, like Pathfinders. Yeah,
Pathfinders
are gonna.
Listen, I've shot enough Rubric Marines in my 2 large tournaments this edition with a blaster on Corsairs, piercing 2 down to 1. If you drop anything, you're just screwed because
and
they're probably gonna save 2.
Weirdly enough, if they're actually like afraid of something like that, they can also just take smoke grenades, which made it even worse. So glad that got changed.
Yeah, great change. And then, speaking of more damage reduction, essentially, you get your Zangor Icon Bearer now only reduces normal damage of 3 or more.
This seems to be like a pattern that they're kind of looking at with the normal damage stuff.
But hey, I'll take it because they already had 9 wounds, 10 on a champion. It's like I think this was because they're usually paired together anyways.
Yep.
So this is.
I think somebody at GW was like felt really bad about Warpcoven last edition and just gave them so much, and now they're like moving things back in line with what they probably should have been.
They've had their fun. Now they have to play like the rest of the teams.
Yep. So another thing with the Zangors, specifically the warrior operatives, could do free mission actions when within the enemy's territory. Now that is only once per battle, rather than once per activation. So it's a lot.
Which is still really good.
It's still super good for a warrior operative. But no more like one Zangor just sprinting down the field, planting beacons and opening doors and all this other stuff for free. So.
And it is once per battle for each model. So,
yes, I believe
you can still have multiple doing it, but like the thing is, like you said, now you can't like send one in to plant a beacon, send another to like do a mission action on a point, like on the enemy's territory. So it's a little more like you have to choose kind of what you
kind of have to think about it a little bit more, which I like.
Yeah. Let's see, Arcane Robes. Oh my gosh, dude, the more I think about it, the more I realize how much less damage reduction this team is getting.
Yes, especially with this change here.
This is yeah. So, okay, Arcane Robes in the past was each sorcerer, once per turning point, could basically, instead of taking crit damage on something, they could change it to normal. So now we've got once per turning point, whenever an attack dice would inflict critical damage on a friendly sorcerer, you can use the rule. If you do, the attack dice inflicts normal damage instead.
Yeah, basically they removed the once per turning point for each sorcerer and just made it a total once per turn thing, which is, to my surprise, isn't what they did to begin with, because that's like all equipment now. Again, just moving things to be in line with what they probably should have been at the beginning of the edition.
Yes, I mean, just you can maybe do a little bit more damage to the sorcerers. It's nice.
Yeah,
it's nice.
Yep.
I mean, still got to get the crits to do it, but
All right, and then Nate for the faction equipment.
Yeah, Sorceress Scrolls. I think I said that right. It's been changed to once per battle, a Warpcoven sorcerer can, whenever they activate or counteract, it can select a different boon of Tzeentch. And they will have it until the end of the battle, and it will lose the previous boon it had, and cannot have another boon a different friendly Tzeentch operative has.
Dude, this one's awesome.
Yeah.
So what did it used to be?
Add the boon to whatever they had, and now it replaces it. So they could have two boons.
Okay.
Now it's entirely different, which I love.
Okay.
Now you're locking yourself into whatever you're changing to, which I mean, maybe in a lot of instances that's totally fine, but there's going to be a lot of times where it's like, okay, do I really want to switch my boon from whatever I have to this is no obscuring shot?
Yeah, do I want to sacrifice my flying for a no obscuring shot, or do I I can no longer get Dev 1 and no obscuring on this shot? They have to think about it more, which. Weirdly enough, Warpcoven already had to do a lot of that. Playing the team, you had to think a lot, but I think the team is a lot less forgiving now.
I think you had to think a lot less with this team, though, than, out of the, the start of this edition than you did. Last edition was crazy.
Yep.
This edition is so much more streamlined, and I feel like it was too streamlined. So this is good though. It makes you think a little bit more. You actually have to be a little bit more conservative with things. And overall, I love these changes. I think they will help a lot playing against this team.
100%.
They seem solid. I haven't played against these guys yet, so I'm kind of shocked to see what it actually used to be.
I'm sicking you on Nate.
Oh my goodness.
All right, it's coming.
Well,
it's coming to the channel.
With these changes, I may actually stand a chance.
I was gonna say, with these changes, yeah, it's not nearly as
crazy, like I said, the team is less forgiving now. I think you have to be a little bit more methodical with how you're thinking about positioning, and you can't just throw a sorcerer up and expect it to live through a bunch of stuff. You might have to sacrifice a piece or two now. So.
All right, very cool. So moving on from Warpcoven to the other big hitters that were driving people crazy, Legionaries.
Hey.
So, moving into the other scary elite team, Legionaries. They also got hit with not as many, but a good amount of changes.
About a page again, yeah.
Yeah, about a page.
It's to be expected, though.
Exactly, these were the scary teams. So, starting off, the first thing to get hit was Implacable. And just like in Warpcoven, it went something like... for Nurgle operatives, weapons with piercing 1 now have piercing crits, so that's kind of a nice change. Just like in Warpcoven, where it would ignore a level of piercing, this changes it.
Once again, doesn't affect piercing too.
Yep,
exactly.
And I think for that reason, I think Nurgle kind of dies. I've heard a lot of talk on the Discords. I think people are kind of moving away from Nurgle now, even against the teams that have a lot of piercing 1. Just because...
Honestly, I'm okay with this.
Yeah, just because so many teams that have piercing 1 can somehow manipulate their dice or get lethal 5. So it kind of doesn't matter. So I think for that reason people are moving away from Nurgle again. So
dude, honestly, if it's a team that can't do any of those things, I still don't think it's worth it, because then you're taking the chance they don't roll a crit, right?
Yep.
That just doesn't seem
I think it's okay if you really lean into the obscuring stuff and like take smoke grenades, play around obscuring a lot, like I think then it becomes really good. But you have to, like, you're already ignoring piercing with smokes, and I don't know, it's a lot to set up. So
Sure. So maybe like you can kind of if you're using the smokes, and then if they get within 2 to negate it, you still have the benefit of reducing piercing 1 to piercing crits.
Yeah, to make them work for it. I don't know. It just seems not. It just doesn't seem good enough anymore.
Yeah.
Talking about not good enough. Quicksilver Speed used to be my most hated ploy on the team. It was for Slaanesh operatives to the specific part for Slaanesh was that if they moved during their activation, they got -1 to hit against them in shooting. Now it's only if the enemies are outside of 6 of them, which absolutely blows that out of the water. That's unusable now, in my opinion. And then the other side of it for everybody was that it was just -1 to hit in melee, even if you were retaliating. Now it's only if you're fighting and only if you moved during that turning point. So you can't. So you have to charge and fight something. To be able to make the enemy's hit stat worse, which is significantly worse than what it used to be. And now you are free to charge and fight Legionaries and not have a worse hit stat, which is great. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's actually fantastic. Yeah. Let's see, more strategy ploys. Fickle Fates has also changed. So now it's basically changed, so they have Ceaseless, which I think this one was before.
It was punishing before.
Was punish? Yeah. And if they it was punishing, and then if it already had punishing, because one of the heavy gunners has it, it was
rending.
What was it?
I think it was rending. If you already had,
was it rending,
if you already had
or was
punishing,
it?
I think it was rending.
One of the two. Yeah, it was either that or Relentless. I almost feel like it might have been.
I don't know.
Point is, now it's different. Ceaseless.
Yeah. I think this is kind of more of a side grade.
Yeah, it's whatever.
Yeah, whatever. I think it was just a quality of life thing. So.
Yeah. Speaking of quality of life things, this one does change for the warrior. So this is Firefight ploys, moving into those now. Mutability and change. This is the Tzeentch one, and it changes the last sentence. So the Firefight ploy is whenever Tzeentch operative, you can add an extra APL. If it's a warrior, the operative can no longer change its Mark of Chaos that turning point. So it has to remain Tzeentch in order to get the additional +1 APL.
Yep. So
I didn't even realize people were doing that.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
We actually talked about this in New York when the edition kind of first dropped, and we were looking at things. If you had initiative, 2 things could happen at the same time, where you could activate the warrior and choose a mark for them to swap to, and +1 their APL at the beginning of their activation with deploy. So if they started in Tzeentch, you could add an APL to them and then swap their mark to Khorne, so that way they can charge and fight twice and like get a whole bunch of value out of that, or Slaanesh and like run up the board really fast and like charge, fight, shoot, and like -1 APL and do a mission action. Like it was crazy, like the things that you could do with that combo. So just a good.
Yeah, especially for a team that actually last edition never took warriors. This edition, it's actually very much a thing.
Yep.
So yeah, that's that's good change.
Yep.
It probably should have.
I never even thought about that, but that's interesting.
I do want to like jump over to the other side real quick since we're on the topic of warriors.
Sure.
So the warriors operatives like ability called Infernal Pact, which is what allows them to swap at the beginning of their activation, is now only once per battle.
So just
for
like kind
all
of
warriors total. So only one warrior on the team can swap once. Yeah. So it's no longer each one can swap any number of times. So if you take 2 warriors, only one swapping and only once per game. So
is it only one per?
Yes, because it's once per battle when a friendly legionary warrior is activated. You can use this rule. If you do so, change that operative's Mark of Chaos keyword. Because an Infernal Pact used to be on the operative, or on it, I don't think it was ever part of the operatives. I think it was always like a faction of like rule. And
not on their data card.
I don't think so. Because I believe it says Infernal Pact on their data card, but it's actually in their faction rules is where it tells you what it does. We can double check that real quick.
Yeah, they have so much stuff in their in their faction rules because of all the marks. So I don't.
I don't see it either. Maybe it is on their data card.
It is. So yeah.
Sure, but
that makes me think that each warrior can.
So because it says when a friendly activates, you can use this rule, not when this operative activates. I believe it's only once for the entire team. Because it does not say when this operative is activated, you can choose its mark.
That is true. Yeah. Okay.
So if that's the case, hard nerf to full Legionary Warrior
that is a
teams.
Pretty hard nerf, yeah. That's actually pretty bad. Yeah. Still, I still think there's a case for maybe taking one.
I think so. I think there's still like use
multiple
cases
though, right?
for them. Yeah. I don't know if you ever take multiple now.
Yeah, interesting.
Blows my mind that people were taking multiple warriors.
Oh, there were a couple
dude,
people
yeah.
playing a leader, an icon, and 4 warriors, Nate.
What? Really? Oh my goodness.
And
That's
like
crazy.
and like placing very well at events.
Wow.
Yep.
My goodness.
I believe that's
I've been doing it all wrong.
Why you
Apparently.
mention the icon bearer? Let's talk about his change because this is pretty
significant.
significant as well. So it used to be as long as he was alive, you just got an extra CP, which led to Legionaries being able to, like, I think,
get a
be
lot.
the only team that could probably break 10 CP.
You could go into
scenario,
turn
right?
start of turn 2. You could have 7 CP if your opponent
Oh my god.
took initiative.
Right. So wild. Now, however, they have changed it, so it's he has to not only be alive, but he has to control an objective marker that isn't tainted, which is a new thing they've added. And then the objective marker is tainted for the battle. You gain an extra CP that way. But this also means if it's a mirror match, there could be, another player's icon bearer can taint an objective marker, and now you both can't do it.
Oh, interesting.
So,
Yep.
interesting that they've added that in
it's
there.
very weird that they included that, but it makes it a weird situation where like you could hypothetically have your icon bearer at like a Zinch. At the in the game, have him on your objective marker, or like bum rush him up with an extra. Oh wait, no, that wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work, yeah,
because the APL goes away. Yeah, but like now both teams are fighting for the middle objective and trying to taint it with more APL, and like I think it's interesting in a mirror match.
It's still not that hard unless it's icon versus icon on a point. You can still just have your icon overtake a point from one other regular Marine.
Yep.
I mean, it's still not
and like
horrible. But
weirdly enough, you can still have him as Zinch to plus him if you really need to, or you can have him as Slanesh to use the firefight ploy to stun something within 3.
True, that actually seems way better. If you
you still have options to like break that APL like deficit. Or like plateau kind of on the middle objective. I think it just makes the Legionary player play more like aggressive with their icon, which I like.
All right, moving on. Speaking of aggressive operatives, let's talk about the Chosen. So Soul Gorge has changed, and it's gone from enemy operative if it isn't incapacitated, but it has incapacitated enemy operative. It used to be incapacitate an enemy operative or inflict critical damage. It's removed the complete critical damage point. So you do have to kill someone to do Soul Gorge. But you do heal a D3 plus 1 wounds now.
It used to be a D3 plus 3.
Yeah, now it's a D3
was it a plus 3? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So it's actually huge because now it used to be a minimum of 4 wounds coming back.
Goodness.
Now it's a max of 4 wounds.
Yeah, which is
that does
so
change
much
quite
better.
A bit then.
Again, just knocking down
actually
the resilience of the team.
Yeah, so here, next thing as well, Anointed has now also, if he's Nurgle, he can no longer reduce a damage die by more than 1, which was which is great.
the Nurgle Anointed being able to take 4 damage down to 2 is ridiculous. Was ridiculous.
pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, a good change. I think that might have actually just been something that was probably overlooked. I feel like because to be able to reduce something more than once is crazy.
Yeah. It's funny that we're talking about these the 2 with the Chosen and the Anointed because I completely skipped over these changes. I went straight to the Balefire Acolyte, and then at below that, and then everything to the left. So I missed those 2 changes. I was like, in my head, I was like, man, they didn't change the Chosen, they didn't change the Anointed. This is still cracked. and now, okay, thank God, because I feel a little bit better.
Well, why don't you touch the Balefire?
Sure. So the Balefire was probably one of the most annoying operatives on the team. Because Life Siphon, or Siphon Life, I guess, it used to be called Life Siphon,
Potato.
is how he heals in between shooting and fighting. It used to be that every time you struck in melee with a crit or a hit, you healed a specific amount, or after you shot with the Siphon Life Psychic action, you could choose somebody and heal them or yourself. It was very annoying. Now, it is specifically when you use a weapon with the Siphon Life weapon rule, you have to choose if you want to use that weapon rule for the sequence. And in fact, if you do use the rule, you have to choose somebody within 6. I don't know why there wasn't a situation where you couldn't. But now it's still a D3 per crit or 1 wound per hit that you inflict damage with, but it is weirdly enough only once per turning point now. I guess not weirdly enough, but kind of just rolls into everything of you can't heal more than once per turn basically. So just great. It's just love it. Love all these changes.
For sure. These are all great. I think this one, just like Warpcoven, is also going to definitely
shake up the meta,
level the playing field for a lot of teams. This is great. I just feel like we're gonna see less of these guys. They'll still probably be higher up, maybe even at the top as well, but I think they're less so.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing with the Balefire change too is let's say top of turning point 2, you get a charge in on the Balefire, and the Balefire uses his daggers, right? Because that's how he fights. He now has to choose if he wants to use the Siphon Life on that weapon and heal himself after the combat or during the combat, or save his Siphon Life for maybe a heal on somebody else later in the turn, which is huge because it makes them, again, just like Warpcoven, have to think a little bit more about sequencing and whether or not it's worth using, at specific points in the game. So
definitely much less of a charge. I kill this thing probably, right, and then heal, and then not only that, I shoot with the other thing, and then heal again or heal something else. So great.
All right. So more good choices. Any other thoughts?
No, I mean, I think they did an amazing job with Legionaries. I think there might still be a couple things that pan out to be kind of broken, but, we'll see. Zaint shooting is still really good, and Khorne melee is still probably the best in the game, but,
Oh, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
That's what I like.
maybe they needed it after all these changes.
All right, cool. Well, let's move over to the next team now. So, now that we've gotten the big boys out of the way, let's go to another team that, to be fair, Hierotek was kind of crazy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think
nuts.
so. I think they were very much compared to Warpcoven in a lot of ways. I don't think that they were as crazy as Warpcoven, but they definitely needed pretty much all of these changes, I think.
Definitely. Yeah, so first off, let's start with their faction stuff. Their main faction thing, their bread and butter, was reanimating. So they used to reanimate with D3 +1 wounds, and then their living metal would go after, which was also a D3 +1 wounds. I mean, you could get a lot of wounds back.
Yeah.
Right. So now they reanimate with just 1 wound.
Oh no! Oh
And
no!
then they're living
Oh
mess
no! It's like having a medic now. Great.
Yeah, right. So the thing is though, is now in order for them to come back not injured, they have to max their living metal roll, which is personally I think is good. I think they should come back injured. So
Sure.
I think
Like
it's
a medic.
right. I think it's just better for balancing.
So I think that this is still fine, because if they really want to, they can just use the Technomancer to still heal. And I'm about to go straight over there because I want to talk about that for a second.
Yeah, do it.
But it does not. They didn't change anything about the Technomancer being able to heal twice, right? You can still counteract and heal,
It's true. Yeah.
I believe. So like.
Yeah. You can.
Like you can still do the thing. But so the Technomancer operative, I'll let you guys handle the Psycho and Chronomancer. But the Technomancer got changed from being able to heal 3d3 down to 2d3. So now he's like an actual medic as well. I think this was probably fine. The 3d3 was a lot, and you could just like take something from 1 to 9 or 1 to 10 wounds. Not super consistently,
So
but like
wild.
still, right? Like
you
you
could
could heal
do it.
9, which is insane in a game that like, 7 wounds is a guardsman.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, that is. It was a lot. It was a lot. This is a good change. And okay, so let's just keep rolling with the leaders then.
Sure.
So you know what? No, Nate, I'll let you take Chronomancer. I gotta talk about the Psychomancer because this is great. So okay, Psychomancer used to be just
Cracked.
wild, right? So his Nightmare Shroud was an 8-inch range. So within 8 inches of him, you couldn't get crits, you couldn't reroll, you couldn't change your dice. It was wild, right? Like he shut down so much stuff. You basically plopped him in the middle of the board, or your a Prentech, one or the other, and you just did that. So now they've changed it to within 4 inches, which is still a respectable range. However,
I think it's fine.
it's fine. And now, if with the right angles, you can get a guy with a 6-inch range in there and not be affected.
The more important part, Brett?
Great. But yes, so the more important part is, so I'm gonna read the whole thing. So it's whenever an enemy operative within 4 inches of this operative is shooting, fighting, or retaliating, your opponent cannot reroll their attack dice and cannot retain attack dice results of less than 6 as critical successes. So you can't use lethal, rending, severe. You can still roll 6s and get crits.
Yep.
You just cannot change to crits.
Do note that I learned this the hard way during a match against Rekka Crew, actually. Is that this kind of ability also stops things like Fate dice from changing dice. It stops things like Warpcoven's dice from changing dice, because those abilities not only change the dice, but also, like for Novitiates, actually say that you retain a normal as a crit, not that you're like physically like
modifying it,
taking like
Rolling
So it does stop things like that too.
Yeah, so Psychomancer is still a fantastic pick. He still has Piercing 2, Blast, Weapon, whatever. Like, he's still good. This, I think, just makes him so much more fair.
Yeah, 8 inches was ridiculous. That's a 16-inch plus the base size, like, diameter bubble. On a 22 a 22 by 30 board. Like, that is ridiculous. It's almost half the board in most cases.
I remember I played one match in Hierotek, and Brett, you actually took the Psychomancer, and it was painful.
Yeah.
Very, very painful. Well, moving over to the other Cryptek, the Chronomancer. So, the counter-temporal nanomine has changed to whenever an enemy operative is within 4 inches of your nanomine, subtract 2 inches from its movement stat.
Was it 8?
It used to be within 6. They reverted it back to like what it was last edition, and then obviously saw that as a mistake and made it 4 inches.
Last edition it got nerfed down to 3.
Yes,
didn't it?
So they've kind of found
this
a
is
middle
interesting
point.
that they went with 4.
Something
sweet
interesting about this is because your stats cannot change during an action, you can move through this marker and still retain your full move distance. As long as that is one whole action to move through it, you're fine. because you can't subtract.
True.
2
So you're saying
during-
as long as you start outside of it and end outside of it, basically,
you can just go through the token without.
Right.
subtracting
Interesting.
You know what though, and another thing is too is now that I'm thinking about it, the way that measuring from tokens works in this edition, it's actually more than 4 inches.
It
as
is,
well.
yep. Which meant that
because
the
it's like you count
Psychomancer's
the
thing,
outside.
again, it's similar to the Psychomancer, right? Like it was included something else. So
Right, includes additional
Yep.
distance from the circulature. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So I mean, it's still pretty good.
yeah. I mean, it's fair? Question mark.
I think it is.
Now, something that was completely unfair that I also love that got changed is the Tesla Weaves. And let me tell you about the Tesla Weaves. They're an equipment that every time you charged any of the Hierotek operatives, including the stupid bugs, you would take a D3 plus 1 damage. It was ridiculous. Like, it just changed the melee math so hard.
Blayne, do not forget, it was a D3 plus 1 per operative.
Oh, yes, thank you. Per Hierotek that you charged. So if you charge 2 bugs, you might just die to 8 damage. I don't know. Who knows? Now it is once per turning point they can use this rule. And it's only a single D3 plus 1. So it still changes the math. It makes your, maybe your opening play worse. But once it's used, it's
Softens you
gone.
up, but-
And you don't have to worry about it for the remainder of the turn. It's great. I love it. I'm happy.
Elf players rejoice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now with the Magnify, I don't know
Still
which one of
good.
you guys wants to take this. If you need help clarifying.
I'll take it. Because
Yeah, go ahead.
I prepped a lot with this, and this did catch me when I fully didn't really understand how Magnify worked. So, Magnify is a very large rule. Basically, it allows you to. So you used to draw your cover lines through either. Basically, the Cryptek and the Apprentech could draw cover lines from one another when shooting, and this would give them ceaseless with the Magnify rule. You could also, you had a piece of equipment which you could use it to, you could draw the cover lines once per turning point from just a different operative. It basically, you used to draw the cover lines from the new guy, but obscuring was still drawn from the original guy shooting.
And cover.
So, and cover, right? Yeah. So, basically, you could get the valid target from the other guy, but they would still get all the benefits of obscuring and cover from your original shooter.
Which made
Not like that
It made
anymore.
some wild situations.
Yes. So now it is no longer like that. Now the cover and obscuring is all determined from the other guy.
Very clean.
Okay, so it's just like a normal
it's-
shooting.
yeah,
attack now.
basically.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
It's clean.
They still get their ceaseless. It's just cleaned up a little bit. It's much less confusing. Yeah, good change. Technically a buff, I guess, right? But just the way it probably should have been from the start.
Yep.
So that sums up. I think these were also just very well done changes. I think these.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people complaining about the fact that reanimating is now like significantly worse than last edition, where you'd have to roll like a 3-up for each guy, because now you only get 1 back instead of maybe getting everything back, and everything comes back at 1 wound plus a D3 plus 1. So basically a D3 plus 2. So they're more likely to be injured, right? Like coming back, like the one guy that comes back. And then like you have to commit your plasma sight to try to reanimate something else, and then that comes back with just 1 wound during the turning point because it missed living metal. So like, I know a lot of people are not on the high horse, but I think it was probably for the best.
Living metal is still after.
It's after, it's
Still
in the
get
ready
it.
step though. So if you reanimate something with the plasma sight during the turn, it
I see what
only
you're saying,
comes
with
back
the
with
plasma
1
sight,
wound.
yeah.
Right.
Right. So, okay, but I think just like the Legionary and the Warpcoven changes, this is something that makes that player playing the
Have to
team
think
have
more?
to just consider things more. Yeah, it's much less of a, okay, I can just dive bomb a guy in and probably get it back, like, uninjured. So,
Yeah.
great. I think it's great.
Nate, thoughts?
No, I think these are all super solid. Overall, everything we've looked at has been super solid. I'm excited to see what the rest of the changes look like for the other teams.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, let's get to the next one. All right, moving into another team, Inquisitorial Agents. I actually didn't realize these guys were getting as many crazy nerfs as they actually got.
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah,
Oh my
actually, though, they were just not fun to play. They're just so boring to play against. Sorry, Inquisition fans. It's just they were really boring to play against.
All right, you can get your pitchfork and torches now. You've upset me.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, Brett, since you kicked the beehive, why don't you start us off?
Sure. I'm gonna start with my favorite one, because this is so stupid.
Yep.
So the Tome Skull used to come back after you killed it for the first time. It would come back over by the leader. They've just completely gotten rid of that. Thank God.
Yep.
Oh, is that what that entire mark?
There's just no more it coming
out.
back, which is great because I'm sick of my attack dice being modified in 2 different spots on the board, and then it coming back after I spend the time to kill it, and then it just doing the same thing.
Basically, they just got rid of the fact that it just
Made no
spawned
sense.
a second Dome Skull. Yep.
Why? Like why? Why are we not killing?
Can I
this thing
cover
for
my
good?
favorite one? It's a very simple one.
Sure. What's your
it's on the
favorite
right hand
one?
side, second one. Questkeeper Operative. Their melee weapon got changed to a 4-up weapon skill again. It was like that last edition.
Okay.
I don't know why they changed it to hit on 3s. It's back to hitting on 4s. I'm happy. I'm glad. Yep.
Yeah, that's very good.
If I were to have a favorite one, this one would be my favorite, and it's the Servo Skull. Only once per battle can you perform a mission action for 1 less AP.
Yeah, that one was also just being able to do it
Was
at
it
every
every
turning
turning
point was
point?
crazy.
I think this was fine because last edition to Servo Skull, like the equipment, you could take it on like 2 or 3 teams, including this one, and it did do once per turning point. And it what.
Yes, but last
I know,
edition was
I
so
know.
different. So many different. So many points.
I just think that like this was maybe unnecessary. I don't know. I'm not gonna complain.
I
just think
this
you know,
was good.
Again.
So in the couple Inquisition games I've played, again, it's a lot of they're taking plant beacons, and the thing is they're gonna whatever they're gonna do their mystic buff on their Melta, and they're gonna comms their Melta or their Pistolier, and then it's gonna run up and shoot stuff, and then it's gonna plant a beacon, and it's the maybe this limits it a little bit.
I guess.
More. Maybe they have to make more conscious decisions.
I guess last
about
edition
who's
too,
doing
you had to place it on one dude, and now this was just like kind of anybody could do it once per turn. So I could see why. Just probably the least notable of all the changes.
Let's see. Let's talk about realistically. This is actually a pretty big deal too. This is the same as it was last edition. Here now.
Team selection.
Yeah, so your kill team and your including your requisition guys, you can't have more than 1 weapon with piercing 2. And you cannot include more than 3 weapons with piercing in general, excluding piercing.
Again,
but
reverting back
Crazy
to last
that was
edition.
allowed to
Like
begin with.
I personally, I don't know what GW was doing specifically with this team, because like they just took all of the balancing from last edition and went, we'll start over and see how it goes. And in fact, buff them even further with other things like the Questkeeper hitting on 3s.
You know what though? Good changes. Good changes.
So I'm gonna leave the other 2, 3, 2 up to you guys, because I'm gonna cover one that isn't on this sheet, but will be super simple to cover. So, I don't know if you want me to do that now or wait.
Sure.
But
why don't you save it?
Sure.
Anticipation.
Okay. So yeah,
Exactly.
Here, I'll cover the Mystic.
Well,
I'll cover the Mystic.
your next one.
So the Mystic, this operative can perform this action twice during its activation. This was for its Scry action, but you have to select different effects. Can't do that anymore. So, and that was one of its various buffs, and I'm gonna blank on what it is off the top of my head. I believe you could retain a fail as
you
a
could
success.
Guidance
when
and
shooting or
protection,
fighting,
or
that
the
operative
2.
could change either a fail to a normal or a normal to a crit. I was completely unaware that you could do this twice. That is ridiculous.
I was too.
Why?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes
So,
sense.
For fun.
I'm glad they changed that. I hadn't seen it done, but I am glad they chose to change that, because that is wild. Yeah.
Quite crazy. And then last but not least, the ones written on the errata are armored bodysuits. The Tome Scale can't wear a bodysuit.
I didn't even know people were doing
They've removed
this.
that
This is
ability.
stupid. What are we doing?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, you know what though? It does say just an Inquisition agent,
Yeah,
so it
that's
does make
fair.
sense. You know, I understand.
All right.
Blayne, tell us
for
what
my
Thank you for
probably
clarifying.
my favorite of all of the changes of this data slate, it is specifically under the Kazrakin team. They have completely removed the entire sentence, the dealing with Inquisitorial agents on the Recon Trooper. It used to give Inquisitorial agents the what was it, the Recon something ploy for free. Relocate. It used to give Inquisitorial agents a 5th strategic ploy for free. If you took Kazrakin and specifically took the Recon Trooper. I don't know why they decided to just throw that on as data card. It's stupid. It's dumb. GW, what are you doing? Favorite change, they, just like the Mystic, just like the Tome Skull, crossed the entire paragraph out. Literally, like, the ability on the Recon Trooper is like one sentence saying, hey, if you have this guy, you can use this play for free. And then it was like an entire paragraph saying, if you're playing Inquisitorial agents, do all of this stuff and you get this and whatever. And it's like, why? He had more rules for Inquisition than his own team. Yeah.
It's actual.
Yep.
deal.
So
Wild. And that gave you so much like
free movement and
what do
like
you call it?
reacted.
You could free movement and
Yes.
just reaction. Yeah, you could.
Nate, if
just
you are
separate
unaware,
so many guys.
relocate from Kazrakin is a ploy where you can pick a dude. Right? Is it still pick a dude, and then?
So no, for them it
Okay,
has
so
to be
him and
It has to
everybody
be him
within 3 get
for
to
it.
dash for free during the strat phase. Yup.
I do remember this.
As long
Sure,
as they're
sure,
more
sure,
from
played with
3,
Inquisition.
they have to be more
Yeah.
than 3. But that's so,
So
easy.
it
That's
used to
so
be a little
easy.
bit better last edition, but now it's free for Kazrakin, and it used to be free for Inquisition if you took the Recon Troopers. You just got free dashes during your turn or during the strat phase, and you could do that for free every turn. It was ridiculous. It was so stupid. Like,
So and also let's also clarify, this was another one of those things where it gave Inquisition like too much in the toolbox, because not only could he do this for free, but he also has his 8-inch range of no
yes,
obscuring,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
just, which is just great.
it was too
So,
much.
I don't think anybody was
GW,
not
I
taking
know it
Kazrakin.
took too
Kazrakin
long.
was just the way
If
to
you're
go.
listening to this somehow, I'm glad you changed it. But come on, let's learn some lessons, dog. Like,
And not to
Yup,
mention Kazrakin
yup.
can hit on 3s now as well.
So.
So crazy
yeah,
buffs to
well,
Inquisition.
hopefully, maybe this changes them a little bit.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. All right. Well, that's Inquisition. Let's move on to our next ones. The Goat Boys, the Fellgore Ravagers. So, moving into Fellgore Ravagers. These guys, oh boy. We got a lot to cover. Brett, please, start us off.
All right, I'll start us and finish this off. So, the shaman's the only thing that got touched. It's Mantle of Darkness, which is basically to give a super conceal. It's essentially a bubble around it. Anything that was concealed and in cover couldn't be targeted unless you're within 2. Classic super conceal. It was simply changed from being within 3 to being visible and within 3.
I'm a little afraid. Let me just say this of Fellgore in this coming meta. I think that they are like one of those sleeper teams that kind of gatekeeps really hard and then struggled into elites. And like those elite teams are now squishier and easier to kill. I think Fellgore like are gonna kind of take over and be
I don't know,
one of those
man.
teams.
I still think Fellgore are going to struggle against the higher wound teams just because of the fact that, like, I don't know, it seems like a lot of the nerfs to the elite teams are in things that do a lot of shooting. So I feel like in like combat, they're still probably going to mess goats up.
Sure.
I don't know, but maybe not.
Yeah,
I don't know.
we'll
It's-
see.
yeah.
I don't know. But like this change specifically has kind of led me to believe that GW kind of saw something that needed to change and thought maybe this was it. So like we'll see if anything else ends up coming up in the future. So.
Alright, so that was it for Fellgore Ravagers. On to something completely different. So, from Goat Boys to Bug Boys, we have the Vespid Stingwings, and they actually got quite a few changes, and I'm kind of excited about this, as, oh boy, these guys they've been rough.
Yeah, quality of life, for sure. That's the main thing they got, right? It was just like,
exactly, yeah.
So its first big thing is the communion. You know, that really important thing.
Yeah, those.
If you don't get enough
those crackers
points.
and wine that you. Oh no, sorry, wrong thing.
No, very different. Not that different. Anyway, you can now you don't have to start from scratch each turning point. You could actually save communion points, which is very, very nice.
Yeah. Being
the
second
second half.
Bank them.
Is,
sorry, I was just going to mention being able to bank them from turn 1. Like if you, especially if you max the roll, like so
exactly.
good
You're pretty
2.
set.
Yeah.
It's gonna help a lot.
Let's talk about that then, because banking them from turn 1 on Into the Dark was like it was before. Like if they didn't add this next part, it would have been very, very difficult.
Yep.
However, they've also changed it. You don't have to spend a communion point to open a hatch.
Wow.
Which is awesome. Oh my
amazing.
goodness.
Wow, it's something
My
that
God.
probably should have been a thing to begin with. But
Yeah.
look,
So now they actually can do some stuff.
bugs
I guess.
can just naturally open doors now.
Open
they
the
just,
dark.
They just
My God.
like instinctively know how to open a door. So instead of having
I love the
be
idea
told,
that some Tau Ethereal is like, okay, so you're going to grab the knob,
Yeah.
and you're going to
Turn it.
Turn
Yep.
it.
No.
Nope. Clockwise.
no, it's a push door, not a pull door.
But no, these are great changes.
Those are great.
This first one.
Now for the oversight drone. If you use its ability to get saturate, you also now get lethal 5. So you can proc your Dev 2 on almost every weapon on the team, or Dev 1, whatever it is.
I think it's Dev 2.
Yeah. Very notably here, because of the way the changes to piercing changed on Warpcoven and Legionaries, all of your piercing 1 faction rule stuff gets changed to crit piercing 1, but now this gives you lethal 5, so you can reliably get that crit piercing 1 to trigger still. So your faction ability is not like out the window anymore against elite teams. So,
and it is visible and within 6 of the drone, so actually not too bad.
Exactly.
Yep.
But
so
listen, I still think they need to change one thing, and it's we need to be able to not take the drone if we want. I think, especially with the new communion points change, because now you don't need to, So I think it would be cool if you could drop the drone for like another warrior.
I personally like the fact that you're forced into the drone. It makes you have to play operatives that are not necessarily just throw them on objectives and like fodder, right? Like it gives you a utility piece
that does have
like,
a lot of fodder.
You're kind of forced to play, which I personally like. It's a little bit better than, again, just having like a fodder piece. But
say that until you play against Kinband and they pop ignore saturate, and then you just have lethal 5.
Hey man, lethal 5 is still pretty good.
Not if you get double cover.
until they throw smokes on themselves, and you're like, oh well.
Yeah, it's like okay. But yeah,
for Kinband we can drop the drone.
Yeah.
Why are the Tau fighting?
Good quality of life changes.
Good changes might need more, but
we'll probably need more. Yeah, probably need more. But...
Oh, poor Vespids.
Oh well.
At time of recording, I'm going to be playing against these, or with these pretty soon for a battle report, and I'm nervous.
Look, man, so at least they're not, like, at least the whole box wasn't bad, right? As we're about to get into.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Let's move into that.
All right. Yeah, so moving from Vespids to Tempestus Aquilons. So, moving on to the Aquilons. Blayne, this is your team, so why don't you start us off?
Yeah, so I really like this team, personally. I know a lot of people, and I'm about to get into one of the big changes. The one of the only changes, to be honest. There's only 2 changes. I know a lot of people complain that they, like, half their rules got shut off after turn 2 because they can't drop in and do their thing. Well, GW saw that and kind of fixed one of their plays a little bit. Still doesn't work on Into the Dark, but that's... I'll take it. So the firefight ploy called Hot Drop It used to be that if you dropped in that turning point, you shot something within 6. After seeing your dice, you could choose to to give yourself Relentless for a CP. Now it also includes if you drop from Vantage at least 2 inches higher than the floor. Notably, Aquilon's faction rule, one of them, is that they ignore all drop distances. So if I ever play them, or if you ever see anybody playing them, there's going to be a lot of weird parkour with Aquilons. Jumping up on a Vantage, dropping down for free just to get Relentless. It's going to be great. But personally, I think this is a pretty big change for the team. Because this ploy used to get turned off at turn 3 and 4. Then you'd have to rely on balanced or CP rerolls. Now you can use a CP to get Relentless, which is great with Melta and Plasma. So, yeah, and I guess the second change, which it's probably just a fix for wording, is the drop and secure strategic ploy. It was a ploy that you could use during the strat phase that you could choose an objective, and you counted as +1 for control on that objective. And I believe there is some other secondary thing. It doesn't really matter. They basically just made it so until the ready step of the next turn, it's active. So, like, it doesn't end at the end of the turning point anymore, which means that, like, beginning of the turning point stuff that cares about objectives, like, I don't know, tainting a point with Legionaries, this still, is in play for that. So, I don't know. I think it's just a quality of life thing, mainly.
Nice. Brett, do you have any thoughts?
No, I just think they're solid changes. Like, they're small, but, like, good. They're just,
yeah. I think when you kind of put it in perspective with, like, the piercing changes to the elite teams and, like, the reduced healing, I think Aquilons, like, are in a pretty solid,
will be in a
pretty
place.
solid place. And now having Relentless throughout the entire game on stuff is just, like, just extra little spice, I can't wait.
The option to be able to do it in late game is fantastic.
Yeah, and like I said, jumping onto the buildings and off buildings for basically a combined total of 4 inches, just to give yourself Relentless possibly on shooting attacks is great. I love that.
Nice. So, moving on to our next team, which is Plague Marines. Okay, moving into Papa Nurgle's Stinky Boys. What do we have here?
Well, Nate, we have... Actually, here, I want to start with my favorite one.
Okay.
Icon Bearer, he's able to do Contagion for free, and now they've changed it so you can't just do it for free all the time. He has to be at least within your opponent's territory.
Oh, interesting. So he actually has to move up and be a little bit more...
Look at that.
Yeah, he has to actually kind of be a part of the game.
Look at that, making Icon Bearers on Marine teams play more aggressive. I like it.
Yeah, I'm all for it, because before, I don't know, it was a little bit...
It's just like the Legionary one,
you'd
right?
pop it every time, like why not?
You pop it you just get free CP, basically, and you just sit in the back line on an objective. Like, you don't have to play forward with them. Now you kind of do, so...
Yep. It's great.
All right. Moving to one that I like, which is very similar to what we saw in Warpcoven and Legionaries. This is for the Plaguecaster, and this is Putrescent Vitality. This action cannot be done more than once per turning point, so healing only once a turning point. Seems like that's kind of the direction the game's going. And yeah, I'm A-okay with that.
I wonder how many people were able to heal 7 once and then do it again to another guy. I wonder how many people were like lucky.
I don't want to talk about it. Speaking of the Psyker, this is more of a buff to the team, I guess. Probably the intentional way that GW wanted this.
Rules are now written as
the Psyker cannot do the same ranged psychic weapon, like use it more than once per turn. So like you can't like, I don't know what they're called, but like the 3/7 severe thing, you can't do that like twice per turn.
Plague Wind, I think. Yeah.
Whatever it is, yeah. But that used to include his psychic melee weapon, so he couldn't fight twice per turn. because he didn't have another melee weapon. So they have changed that psychic weapon text to be psychic ranged weapons can't be used more than once per activation. So, you know, that way you can run up and like melee 2 things now instead of being a broken marine. So just quality of life, little buff, but probably the intent. So
the last one's just kind of it's convenient. I don't know what it was before though, but basically they've changed the fighter's flail action to if the D3 result is a 3, they also gain a poison token. They didn't have one.
So I believe
what was it before?
I believe this used to be they just got one. I believe this is a nerf.
Oh, so now they have to roll out.
I believe they used to just get a poison token regardless of the result, and now it is they have to roll a 3 on the D3 to get poisoned.
Sure.
I wouldn't be able to tell you though.
I wasn't
because,
aware of what it was before. I don't know if I actually.
It's fine. This team already hands out poison tokens like they're candy.
Yeah, I think
they should, right?
Yeah, that is their candy. Sure.
Yeah. All right, cool. So simple changes, but you know, I think they're going to be good. So we'll see what the next team has for us. So now we are moving into Chaos Cult, everyone's favorite team.
Yay!
Are
were
they
bad
back?
And,
Let's
I think they might be back. Personally.
Oh, don't say that, Blayne. Please don't say this.
You both are just like probably eye rolling, shaking your head, like hoping.
Yeah.
Anyone that the summer of cults will be that one.
No. I don't think so. I hope so. So they got two big. They got 2 big changes. The first one is their mutation faction rule. They have now increased it to be able to make 2 torments a turn instead of just 1, which was like a huge nerf at the beginning of this edition.
Why?
So now you can go into turn 2 with 2 torments again.
No.
I think that this change alone probably puts them in like a really good spot. Just having that forward pressure and like, you know, like threat, right? Like, I think I played like 2 games this edition with them before, and it just felt so underwhelming to make 1 torment and then have it die because you didn't get initiative. And then
I suppose their leader can't mutate things anymore, though. Right?
Exactly. So like, we were kind of talking about it. Yeah, we were talking about it in the Discord, and it's like you spike like with the team. You can spike with mutations turn 2 and turn 4, right? Because like turn 1 you make 2 mutants, turn 2 you make 2 torments, and then unless you're killing something with a devotee during turn 2, you're going into turn 3 with 3 mutations, so you're getting like 3 mutants, and then turn 4 you're getting 2 torments and maybe 2 more mutants depending on what's alive. So like you're really only seeing torments on turn 2 and turn 4, so it's still like kind of balanced. You're not just like bringing one up every turn, right? And then Brett, or Nate, if you want to take the second one here, the second change.
Sure, I can take this one because it worries me.
Yeah.
They changed Fervent Onslaught, so essentially this strategy ploy, instead of, because it was just accurate 1.
Yep, team-wide accurate 1. Yep.
Now it is accurate 1 yet, but accurate 2 if they're a mutant or torment. So which is better.
Melee, yeah.
What last edition was the ploy? Was it still a double retain for torments, or was it just the 1?
It was
just the 1?
Essentially not keyworded yet. Accurate 1 for the entire team for melee.
Okay, I couldn't remember if it was 1 or 2. So this is now better.
Yep.
Than it was then, which is, I'm actually surprised it's accurate 2 for mutants as well. I actually thought it would have just been torments. But I suppose this makes it more useful though.
Yeah, I think they did this for one reason, and it's specifically because the mutants and torments got nerfed, or actually, maybe it was just torments this edition got nerfed to ceaseless, so it's not full relentless anymore like it used to be last edition. So accurate 2 kind of makes up for that. I mean, obviously they both have rending, so like whether or not you actually want to double retain or not is kind of your call. But
right.
Yeah.
I mean, you still get 3 dice to roll. I think this is just This is just really good for. You're talking about 4 or 5 damage, so.
With the torment, yeah. I mean, and
right.
again, the icon can still buff their damage, so mutants can go to 4 or 5, torments can go to 5, 6. It takes a little bit of setting up, obviously, but like, they're still killing machines. They have to be, because you know that's kind of the whole purpose of the that's kind of the whole purpose of the team. A lot of chatter.
It just got scary.
Yeah, a lot of chatter on how good they are now, with all the other nerfs that they got for this edition. So we'll see what happens.
Time will tell. Hopefully, we don't have a take 2.
I hope not.
Let's find out in the next coming months.
We will. All right. Well, moving on to Hunter Clade, another one of Blayne's favorite teams.
Yippee!
Okay, moving into the Tech Cult of Mars. Blayne, this is another one.
Yay! They got something.
Blayne's teams just keep on winning.
I wouldn't really call this one a win, but you know, it's baby steps. It's baby steps.
Okay. Well, you can start.
Yeah. So this change, the entire faction rule got an extra step. So, you know, with Hunter Clade, you like beginning of each strat phase, you pick an imperative to be active, and each one's got a downside and an upside that are both active for your team. Well, they have added a spot for a what's it called? A primary mode, where when you select your operatives, you select one of your imperatives to be your primary, and during the turn, like once per battle, you can have that primary imperative, if it's active, not cause deprecation or like the downside for that one turn. And it's, as much as I want to say this is good, it is nothing like last edition. And these are like, this is just a baby step in the direction of what it was last edition, where you just didn't get the downside for each turn if it was the first time you used that imperative. Look, like I get it. It's I'm not gonna complain. It's just I want more than this.
Sounds like a lot of complaining.
Yeah. On top of that, with all the with the imperative change, came a change to Bulwark Imperative, which was arguably probably the least used. It used to give you ceaseless in defense at a -2 or -1 to your move stat. It still gives you the -1 to your move stat, but it now gives a damage reduction to normal damage of 3 or more. It reduces it by 1, which is something that Hunter Clade has never had before, and completely changes the game for like melee for their Sicarian models. I am a personal huge fan of this. I love this change. Brett, I know you maybe had an opinion about it.
Yeah, I think it's listen, I've been saying nerf Farstalkers for a long time, and this is not what we needed. Okay?
Look, man, let my robots this is gonna have their time to shine.
Dude, this is gonna be wild. But you know what, though? I am glad that it is at least not set up like how Novitiates rules were. At least this is just a normal. Like it is specifically normal damage.
Yep. Normal damage 3 or more.
So, I mean, at least they've got that in there.
But it is every dice, right? So it is like.
Right. So
I
really
think
good.
in melee against like Marines specifically, especially like I'm so excited to try this team against Legionaries now, because Legionaries like their -1 to hit melee got changed really hard. Like doesn't work when they're retaliating. So like a Farstalker might just be able to get in there and just like, even if it doesn't like kill the Marine, survive the first combat because of the damage reduction, and then go to a second fight action because the ploy. Like I think it might just change enough for the team to like work against elites, and I'm really excited. I don't know if one of you guys want to cover the firefight ploy. It's kind of weird.
No, Blayne,
yeah,
you got
this ploy is like it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave that all up.
Okay. So they changed Omnicize Imperative. And I think this is more quality of life rather than like an actual change, based on how it's worded. So Omnisize Imperative used to give you an extra little oomph to your current imperative that was active for whichever model you wanted to use it on, at the cost of a D3 damage, or D3 plus 1. So they've changed it to read... I'm just going to read it because it's probably just simpler. So you use this firefight ploy during a friendly Hunter Clade's operative's activation. So during that activation. Alternatively, you can use it when an enemy operative is shooting one of your operatives at the end of the roll attack dice step. Inflict a D3 plus 1 damage on that friendly operative until the ready step of the next strategic phase. That friendly operative has an additional rule determined by its current Doctrina imperative as follows, and then it's got all of them listed.
Which they're wild.
Yeah. Additionally, they changed the end of the third bullet point, which I believe is for the bulwark imperative. To read, if you use this ploy during a shoot action, this operative's save stat is changed immediately. This takes precedence over the core rules. So this is one of those instances where like you can use this during an action and get your save stat better. That kind of contradicts the core rule. Now, the first change to this, it says alternatively you can use it when an enemy operative is shooting a friendly. It was kind of weird because it used to like say alternatively you can use this before or after rolling attack or defense dice, which put into question if you could actually use it during an enemy operative's activation when they shot you. But how would you be able to use it otherwise with defense dice? It was just kind of weird and like confusing. So I think they kind of just cleaned it up a bit, made it a little bit nicer wording and stuff. So it's still very good. And for those, again, who don't know, with the bulwark imperative change, if you are getting the damage reduction and you use this, you can also get an additional defense dice as well as +1 on your defense save stat. So like something like a Ruststalker can get 4 defense dice with double cover with a 3-up save and damage reduction. It's kind of wild. And if you are behind the portable barricade, you can get a 2-up save. It's ridiculous. It's like I'm actually kind of excited to try some stuff out.
Oh boy. Whack.
Your guys' thoughts? I don't know if that was confusing to you guys or not. Probably.
Whack.
I got the gist of it. Yeah.
Sure. Yep. Dakota, if you're listening to this, Hunter Clade got even more confusing to read. So don't read their rules anytime soon.
Awesome. All right. Well, that was it for Hunter Clade, and let's move on to our next team. So, moving into the Farstalker Kinband. Do any of us have actually any experience with this team this edition? Or
Nope.
I haven't encountered these guys.
I have played
I've
against them once, and that was against somebody who I was teaching the game. So.
I see. So
They seem a lot better though. This edition.
Yeah, they seem better. So starting off with Cutthroats, apparently we don't know what this was, but all Farstalker Kinband operatives can add 1 to their attack stat on their melee weapons, which
To a max of
solid
5,
buff.
yeah.
To a max of 5.
to a
So
max
that's
of
what it
5.
was last edition.
Yeah,
so
that's
like,
what
If
we
anybody
change
knows
here.
what it was before this change, let us know in the
Please let us
comments,
know.
because we have no idea.
I'd love
That's
to
what we
know.
thought it was.
So yeah, that's solid off the bat.
I suppose, yeah. Strategic Ploy Prey has now gotten an additional sentence, or basically, saying if the weapon has already has balanced, it instead gets ceaseless and severe instead of balanced and severe, which works in with some of their other changes here very well.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. I mean, this being one of them, you've got the Kill Broker's ability, Call to Kill. They just changed the third sentence to read that the friendly operative weapons will have balanced against whatever operative you pick for it.
Yeah, I think this used to just be...
what else?
So I think this and the next one used to just be, like, you can re-roll one of your dice, or maybe get accurate one, I think. And so they've changed it.
Yeah, I think
it used to be
I
accurate.
believe you're right.
So now it's balanced, and it works very well with Prey, because you can get balanced against something, and then, what's it called? And then, like, stack it with Prey and get Ceaseless and Severe. It's, like, kind of good.
Yeah, and also with the call to kill as well, whenever you do kill the thing, you get to pick just another guy within 6 of your leader to get balanced. Well, and you bounce the mark. So you not only bounce the mark, but you also give balance to another guy within 6 of your leader.
Right.
So like you can actually give
that's
up quite a bit of
that's the
balance.
next rule here is the victory streak rule. Which until the end of the turning point, whichever operative that, like, friendly operative that you mark, gets balanced on their weapon rule, or as a weapon rule on all their weapons, which again works very well to be able to get Ceaseless and Severe just by killing something, you know.
That's a pretty cool change. I like that a lot, actually. Oh, this next one's such a bummer.
The faction equipment, piercing shot and toxin shot. Yeah, so you can no longer use a piercing shot and a toxin shot during the same activation.
Brett and I were just talking about this at Vegas, about how cool it is that you could, like, get piercing, lethal 5, and stun all on one shot. This is stupid.
Yeah, can't do it no more.
Got rid of it.
It's a nerf.
Yeah.
Team unplayable. Sorry.
Nate, do you want to take trophy as well here real quick?
Sure, I can do trophy as well. So once per battle during a friendly Farstalker Kinband operative's activation, excluding the hounds, so dogs can't do this, before or after it performs an action, if it's not within control range of an enemy operative, you can use this rule. So what is trophy?
Trophy was the +1 to the APL stat.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
So they kind of changed the timing on it.
They made it way better, in my opinion. Because it used to be when you activated that operative. Now it's just during the activation, at any point.
Right, so now you kind of get to decide if you commit to it. So if something doesn't go your way, you don't have to waste it.
As well as, like, if something, like, very wrong happens during your activation, like, you can use it and be like, well, now I've got +1 APL to, like, take this objective that I thought I was going to kill you on or something, right? Like, very, very good change.
Is trophy a once per turning point?
It does say once per battle. So you get one APL boost from
right there at the front.
the equipment. You do still have a comms.
When you
but
really
like that. That's very good.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's very solid.
All right. For the most part, seems pretty good. Unfortunately, you can't do the piercing and toxin.
Yeah.
That was kind of cool.
Yeah, what the heck? Why? GW, why? Why?
Too many keywords on...
Yeah, because think about it, right? Like,
attack.
your single, like, shot could have Ceaseless, Severe, Balanced, or not Balanced, Ceaseless, Severe, Piercing, Piercing, Lethal 5, Stun, and I think there's another keyword that you could probably add to it somewhere. I don't know. Like, that's a lot. That's a lot of keywords. I
don't see a single problem with any of that.
And all of that can be stacked on the shotguns too, or would be able to get stacked on the shotguns, which is, like, crazy.
Pretty cool. So Farstalker Kinband seeming better. I know that they've kind of always been in a rough position, so glad to see them getting some buffs.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, moving from Farstalker Kinband to the Deathcore Krieg.
Woo!
Okay, so moving on to the Death Corps.
Yeah, Nate, this is one of your OG teams.
Yes, this is one of the 2 original teams that I got. And it looks like it looks like everything they got is pretty solid. So, looking at Guardsman orders, take aim, fix bayonets, and dig in. They all got Ceaseless, which is pretty great. So, they get Ceaseless in shooting, they get Ceaseless in fighting, and they get Ceaseless in defense saves.
Yeah,
this is phenomenal.
I think it used to all just be, like, balanced or something, right? Like, just reroll 1 die.
Yep, it was balanced. So
this is way better.
This is big.
Yeah, it's really good, actually.
Yeah, no complaints here whatsoever.
Some consistency.
And then moving over to Siege Warfare, is change the text to friendly Death Corps operatives, ranged weapons have saturate and accurate one.
Hey, look at that. More consistency. Woo!
Yeah,
Again, more
Making your plasma and melta, even though they're hitting on 4s, making them hit hard as a truck.
just a little bit better.
That's okay. That's fine, dude.
This next one, I'm actually not surprised to see this. In-death atonement, so when you in-death, the operative is treated as being injured for the duration of its action. That makes sense.
That is how it was last edition, correct?
It was.
I think
In-death
so.
atonement is completely changed from last edition, though. It allows them to do a free fight action or mission action now before they're removed.
Wait, they can fight?
Or shoot. Sorry, shoot action or
was gonna
mission
say,
action.
I thought it was
sorry, not fight.
shooting.
They can perform a free shoot or mission action before they're removed.
So it's just the basically the action, one of those two. It's not they activate next.
Yeah,
basically.
that's
Okay,
that's
so it's essentially an icon from Brood
Yep.
Brothers or
Yep.
Wormblade. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So not surprised to see that, but for Siege Warfare and Guardsman Orders, those are some huge buffs. I'm pretty happy to see this.
Yeah, I wonder what Dakota thinks about these, because I think he doesn't think
Dakota,
very highly
if
about
you listen to
these.
this, please put it
I don't know.
in
He's
the
probably happy
comments.
with. I bet she's happy with the faction rules at least.
Yeah, I personally, like, I don't know much about this team or what they need, but I personally would have liked to see the Sergeant plasma pistol hit on 3s. Because I know it hits on 4s, and it's the only thing in the
Yeah,
it's the
that
only
would've been
leader in the
nice.
game that doesn't have better shooting than everything else.
Wait.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I
a
just
little
realized
guardsman.
Dakota loves this update because Dakota famously loves melee Death Corps.
There you
so
go,
he's
yeah.
gonna-
He's
He's
a-
gonna love the ceaseless for his bayonets.
Yeah.
Dakota,
He takes them against, like,
He's
all
mad
other,
now.
like, 10 model teams. he just like,
Man.
jams in with axes.
You know what? To each your own. Go ahead, Dakota.
Yeah.
Pop off. All right. Well,
Cool.
everyone else and Dakota, please publish your thoughts on this one, and your favorite teams as well. But that's all we have for Deathcore. So let's move on to our next one now. So moving into Dire Avengers. Similar to
Dire Avenger,
Farstalker.
you mean Blades of Khaine?
Oh, Blades of Khaine.
I mean, hey,
Okay.
the whole change is the dire.
Yeah,
Avengers,
yeah.
Right?
Getting ahead of myself, but similar to Farstalker Kinband, the Blades of Khaine, we don't actually know much about this team, so
Yeah.
it's up to you, commenters.
Yeah, we don't know what this
Fill us in.
was before the change, but it's
I
balanced now.
think it was ceaseless. I feel like it was ceaseless.
Do we think it was a nerf?
Yes.
Or do we think it was some
maybe-
weird buff?
Maybe I don't know.
Was
Honestly,
it like-
Anyway, the
I don't
Dire
remember.
Avengers, their weapon rules now.
Wait. Wasn't this? Didn't it give accurate before?
Oh, it
Yeah,
was.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
totally
yeah.
right. You're totally right. It was accurate one because I was all. This is lame because they have rending. So
Yeah.
I feel like you just want to roll.
Yeah, I think that was also one of the things
You're
that
so right.
Dakota was talking about. Felt like it needed to change. So now it's balanced. I don't know if that's better or worse.
Shout out.
Take your
Well,
pick.
never mind. We do
Shout
know
out to
what this
Robert
is.
who runs all Dire Avengers.
All Dire Avengers?
Shout out
Okay.
to Jason, who in Minneapolis runs all Banshees because he's a Chad.
We don't need Jason. We don't need Jason.
Who cares? Who cares about this update when you can run all Banshees? You know.
Get out of here.
Whoever plays Striking a Scorpion, shout out to you.
Uh,
Sweet.
Well, that's short and sweet and to the point. That is the Blades of Khaine. So moving into the Nemesis Claw. Huge change, big change. And by that, I mean comm jammers have gone from 8 inches to 3 inches. So, quite a reduction, but honestly, not too crazy. Like,
It's a welcome change, I think.
yeah, depending on the team, that could have been kind of debilitating. so.
I think it was very specifically directed to the Rekka crew matchup. Because Nate, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Rekka crew.
Not really.
So they're one of their faction rules is whenever they shoot or fight, they get an extra APL right away,
really?
like after that action.
Interesting.
But
So this would have turned it
it
off.
literally just turns off their one of their faction rules,
Okay.
and
so,
then
yeah,
they
I can see
become
that.
6 orc operatives with 2 APL and 2 bomb squigs,
Yeah.
which is terrible. So
Mean.
yeah, I think it was mainly directed to that, but also just in
Okay.
general, I think it was
Yeah.
fine.
Compared to all the other elite teams, no, this isn't too crazy.
Yeah, you got off easy.
I did. Maybe next time, you know what? Just give Nemesis Claw a way to heal. Oh, I'd be happy as man.
Oh my god.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Or damage reduction, either or. I can't complain too much. But no, like, again, pretty simple nerf, but again, not too crazy. Moving into another team that really didn't get a whole lot, we have Hand of the Archon. Rhett, would you like to take this one?
Sure, yeah. So I loved Hand of the Archon. I mean, I still like them a lot. I like a lot of the changes this edition. Not all, but... So basically the only thing that they got was for the cunning rule on the leader. That's the whole, if I skip with the first opportunity, I gain a CP if he's alive. Basically they've said ignore, basically when you're picking your primary, ignore that. That you don't, that doesn't count. So,
interesting.
Yeah.
Ignore that, and then you can, if somebody else does something, you can skip and then gain it, right? Because you can't, basically they're saying you can't try to skip on picking your primaries.
This is
you have to pick a primary.
Specifically towards power surge as well.
Oh yeah,
because
true,
some people would, I don't know why this is a thing. Some people would purposely skip, right? Like Hand of the Archon, picking a power surging thing, and then it just breaks the game. Because like
really?
Yeah, because like if Hand of the Archon skips like passes on a strategic gambit and your opponent goes, well, I'm also gonna pass, then it's like, okay, cool, now there's not another opportunity to pick a power surging objective.
Yeah.
And now you can no longer pick a power surging objective for the rest of the game by how it's worded.
Right.
So
anything related to the actual primary mission, and then also your primary.
Yep. So you have to do all the strategic gambit stuff for the mission and everything. Stop trying to be weird, you dirty little elf players.
Yeah, sorry, Hand of the Archon players. You have to play the missions. Sorry. All right. Well, again, another simple change. Not too much to it, but not bad. So, going now to the Void Dancer Troupe. What did these guys get?
Not much.
Yeah, I mean,
okay then.
one thing, and I don't even know how big of a thing it really is. So.
Yeah, they basically just changed the Shadow Seer's Mirror of Minds, which is the whole rolling the dice and matching it with your opponents. They changed it to a valid target and within 8, as opposed to just a valid target.
Okay.
So a little bit of a nerf, but not a.
Yeah, you darn dirty elf players. I keep saying it.
Whoa!
You do keep saying it.
Like I know a very valid strat was just to put a heavy barricade in your drop zone and then put him behind it, because he could see over the top of it because of how tall the model is. So you could be wholly behind the barricade with heavy and just like see over it and just go, you Mirror of Minds from Conceal Order. Now you can't do that anymore, so probably a good thing.
You at least got to move up into it, right? So.
Yep.
It's fine.
Okay.
Which, weirdly enough, he actually, this edition does kind of want to move up, because he has that hallucinogen grenade, too. So, I mean...
Yeah, we'll see.
I can see how this is fine for him.
Could be a little bit different of a playstyle, but who knows.
Yeah, whatever.
Alright, very cool. Well, thank you, Void Dancer Troupe. Very nice. Time to move on to something else. So, looking at the Imperial Navy Breachers now, it doesn't look like they got too much, actually.
Yeah, they probably could have used more.
Poor Breachers.
Yeah. It's fine.
They actually made it harder. Actually made it harder for them to get their damage reduction. Technically, they made it harder. It's really not that hard, but like it's harder. Weirdly, because now they have to be within their territory.
For brace for
I guess it's one or the other. Actually, it's actually not that bad. It's either
this is actually a buff. Because it used to just be that they couldn't charge fallback or reposition yet. Now they can like move around in their own half and still get their damage reduction.
Yeah.
And they changed.
That's true. Actually, that's actually kind of great, because actually true. You could charge in your own.
Yep. And it does not say wholly within, so you can tiptoe your own territory.
Right.
They also changed the damage number for the damage reduction to 3 instead of 4, so it's now 3 or more damage is reduced.
Thank God, because
Yeah.
4 was kind of
ridiculous. Yeah.
Okay, that's not terrible, to be honest. That's something
and then they made the leader even more of an important model to keep alive. So the sergeant now gets his command breach changed. So now it says whenever you use, you would use the attack order or defense order strategic play. If the leader is alive, it costs 0 CP. So it's kind of like an icon bearer situation.
Like last edition.
Yep.
Yeah.
Once during each of this operative's activations, before or after it performs an action, if your attack order or defense order markers in the kill zone, you can either remove that marker and place it again, or change the selected ploy to the other. You cannot do both, and you do not need to spend CP to change the ploy. So this is actually a little bit better than last edition, because you used to pick one or the other to be 0 for the entire game. Now this is just one of them is always 0, and you can change it. Like, kind of, I want to use attack order and not spend CP, and then use defense order and not spend CP next turning point. And you can also move the token and change the order during the turn for free. Like it's actually a huge buff.
Okay.
I do really like being able to move it or switch it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Kind of every team kind of has that ability. Like, Earthkin Salvagers have that kind of situation too. I'm blanking on the other teams, but yeah, like a lot of other teams have the ability to like place a marker, move a marker situation. It just makes the leader even more valuable on breachers, so you can't really run them up and be careless.
Yeah, you gotta know what you're doing with these guys and not be.
Yeah, and unfortunately,
at least a little cautious.
Like neither of these changes really affect their damage output as much.
Nope. But it could keep them alive a little bit.
Yeah, I think these are just defensive changes, which, I don't play the team. I never have, so I don't know if they really needed it. But
played them a few times, and I will not complain.
Yeah. So.
And they need the help this edition. I know they do. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good.
Well, Breachers, hopefully we get a little bit more next days.
Yeah.
Yeah, step in the right direction.
On to the last team to get nerfs this Dataslate, right? Novitiates?
Yeah, I
think so.
Last one for nerfs, yeah.
All right, very cool. Let's take a look at them. So, looking at Novitiates, let's get into it.
Yeah. So I think this team is like in a weird spot, like kind of a purgatory in the meta right now. Because they were like really good against everything else except for like top teams they were okay at, and now with these changes I think they're in a more balanced spot, but they've kind of shifted down with all the like the elites and stuff, right? Like they're still I think they're still fine. I still think they're strong. They're just not as crazy, and now you can maybe shoot them and kill them.
I won't complain about that.
So their first change, strategic ploys, Defenders of the Faith. This was their damage reduction. It used to be on objective markers and mission markers. It was the only thing in the game that cared about mission markers specifically, which was, if you don't know, there's only 2 things that they could do to get mission markers, or 3 things technically. It was all 3 of the recon tag ops. It gave you a damage reduction of the first, or one of your choice of a dice during each sequence of shooting and fighting. It was halved, rounded up, so like 5 became 3, for instance. And now it is, with no minimum. And now it is only on objective markers. It's still
okay. That
yeah.
Okay
it's still you can have the damage inflicted, rounding up to a minimum of 2 now, from 1 normal success. So three separate nerfs in this. Minimum of 2, only works on normals, no longer works on your TAC op mission markers. It's a lot of nerfs. I don't think they necessarily care about the minimum of 2. The normals is a big one. I think that's probably the biggest change of these.
For sure. No more doing it on plant beacons.
Yeah, that too. I mean, you have to play on objectives now, which is probably why they did it to begin with, and they realized that plant beacons is just way too good.
Yeah.
That was absolute madness. I'm glad to see this change.
Yeah, and then the second thing, which is the Blessed Rejuvenation, that's the healing, also a strategic ploy. So it used to be whenever you spend faith points in during an action, whether it was your opponent's or yours, you healed at the end of that action a D3 plus the number of faith points spent. Now it is just a D3. So no more like healing a D3 plus 5 after you get shot at and alter your defense dice and damage reduction. It's a lot more fair.
Also, A-okay with
yeah, it's
this.
a lot more fair, I
No
think.
issues.
I took them to Vegas, and I had a Phobos player shoot one of my sisters out on an objective in the middle of the open, like no cover or anything. Took him 6 shooting attacks and a charge and fight to kill it. Because it just kept damage reduction, healing, and like I was burning faith points, but it just didn't matter because the sister was alive. I think there's going to be a lot less of that now.
Yeah, I really want to say that it's now possible to kill these guys in shooting, because before it just like really wasn't. I haven't really done the math, obviously, yet, but I do feel like it's got to be better. Right?
So I think the big thing is like this is going to sound weird compared to like what it should be, but I think if you spike a roll with 4 crits, I think you can kill a sister now.
That's so sad.
Yeah, compared to what you used
And the
to
fact
have to
that
do.
I say I think
It's doable.
it says something, because before this you could spike a roll with 4 crits on something with like 4 or 5 damage and just not kill a sister if they rolled 1 crit save. Now I think it's possible. It's just really funny to me.
So at the very least, it is very possible to actually have them injured, because now you're only healing up to a D3.
Yep.
As opposed to, you know, like you said, like a 5 plus D3. You know.
Yeah, like a minimum of 6, which there are 7.
You should at least be
models.
able to actually keep damage off of them.
The other big
At
thing
least.
here is because it's normals, it plays very weirdly into melee now. Because now, like, your sister superior used to be able to survive a power weapon, and now can't, right? Because you get like if you get hit with 2 crits, you just die. Like a crit hit, you can still survive, but like everything else, anything with 4 damage on the crit, just like kind of kills you in melee. Notably things like Jaeger's melee, right? It's like 3/5 lethal 5. That's really strong against sisters now, because now it's 5 damage on the crit, and if you get crit hit, it's still 7. So it's interesting for sure. Definitely changes how they have to play. They can't play fucking sporadically anymore.
Insanely
Yeah,
aggro.
they can't play super aggro and just get up in your face with beacons anymore. So I think it's a good change for sure.
Okay, well, I have one thing that still makes me mad that they didn't change, that I just don't understand. And I mean, there's multiple things, but like,
what
this
is
is the
it?
biggest one. And it is that stupid auto broadcaster.
Oh,
Yeah,
so for those who
Why
are
are
not
they
aware,
doing
it's pretty bad.
the what's it called? The
Dialogus.
Dialogus, who is your comms, has a free or a 0 AP action, unique action, to place an auto broadcaster token within, not even wholly, just within 8 of the model. And while enemies are within 3, it turns off all of their attack roll rerolls. And you can also comms from that token as well. So you effectively have like a 15-inch comms radius around her, and you can turn off rerolls, and it's all free. I understand why Brett's upset about it.
I just don't understand why we thought that was okay. Gosh, make it cost an AP to put it out at least, like.
Yeah. Or like even putting it out would be free, and then make it an AP to move it. That would be semi-fair.
Right, because you can
Yeah.
move it 8
Because
inches.
yeah, you can. Yeah, every time you use the action, therefore, after placing it, you can move it 8 inches horizontally, any distance vertically, through walls and anything else of the sort. So like, you've just got so much leeway with it. It's kind of wild.
Whatever. Either way, these are good changes. I hope it's enough to make it feel more fair.
I'm just
with
glad
the shooty teams.
that the penitent can still fight 4 times in an activation.
Oh my god! Why
Yeah, I
did
forgot
we do
about that.
Aren't you glad I brought that up, Brett?
I feel like there's a lot more that we could
Take it
definitely
back.
bring up.
We
but this is what
can
we got.
we can keep stripping stuff.
Yeah,
This is what we
yeah.
got,
Yeah. Like, they also didn't change Blinding Aura. That's still a thing. You can just say no. Like...
Okay, to be fair, the big stuff is gone, but
Yeah.
At least
okay,
mitigated.
revisions may
I
still be
hope
there.
I truly think this is good. Like, it's probably fine now.
Yeah, I've
But-
actually seen some talk about taking the medic now as like a roster option or as like a
Sure. Yeah.
slot, just because she gives you the extra healing that the ploy doesn't give you, and she can also keep your models alive after they get shot and maybe die because you spike a roll or something, right? Like, your survivability and shooting is lessened, so the need for a medic is heightened.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Alright, well, all good changes. Hopefully we get more sometime soon. Anywho, moving on to Gellerpox Infected now. Let's see what they got. So, moving into Gellerpox Infected. These guys actually got a good bit of changes.
Yeah, I think that they're all underwhelming in my opinion, but yeah.
Oh. Well, unfortunate, but let's take a look at them. Blayne, what do you think is underwhelming specifically about this?
So here, let me take a look real quick, just to remind myself. So I think I'm just gonna do this right now, so that way, because it's probably the
go ahead.
easiest. Is the revoltingly resilient. It's their damage reduction on everything pretty much, except for the little bugs. Has been changed to you roll a d6 on a 4+, you subtract 1 from the inflicted damage. It used to be a 5+. The fact that I have a big problem with like this sort of damage reduction on this kind of team to begin with, because they're super squishy. Like, their 5-up saves, they like don't really have ways. Like, the Hulks can't take light cover. Like, it's very easy to shoot them, and the 4+ doesn't really change much to my like understanding. So, but yeah, it's a change, I guess. It's a step in the right direction, so can't complain.
It's something at the very least. I will be honest, I do miss the old school revoltingly resilient, where you'd grab like a fistful of die and roll them all.
And, yeah,
I think that was more fun personally.
yeah, there are definitely problems with that too, but yeah,
for sure. But I do. There's one thing I do miss from the old days, if you will. All right, moving on. The faction equipment mutated symptoms has changed. And it now reads, the final sentence has been changed. Note that if the rule refers to any enemy operatives being affected by your selected Techno-Curse rule, Vulgar Thrice Cursed operatives spread the Glorious Gifts rule, it affects your additional Techno-Curse rule too.
So
I don't know what to make
the
of that.
example thing is just like a clarification, I think.
Oh, is
yeah,
that what
I don't
it
think
is?
there's
Okay.
really any change to this. It's just like them saying, hey, it's regarding his rule, right?
Oh, I see. Like a few of these names, I know nothing about Gellerpox.
This is a smaller one.
Yeah, Gellerpox.
I will say
yeah.
I like the other faction equipment change though, the Black Bellows. So it lets
Okay,
you.
why don't you take those?
It's whenever you're being shot, a Hulk is being shot outside of 6. Like when an enemy is outside of 6 shooting it, you can retain a defense die of a 3 as a normal success instead of discarding it.
Oh,
It's kind of cool. A
That is
little
nice.
bit of flavor there for Nurgle's number, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
that's neat.
think that helps a little bit in the defense category. It being outside of 6 definitely is not the greatest
Not great, yeah. Right, because you're probably gonna have to get close anyways,
to fight.
because they're probably
yeah.
hiding, right?
Yep.
So,
So like, again, underwhelming.
it's cool.
Also,
I
like,
think it's neat. Like,
I think the result of a 3 is like the whole Nurgle's number thing, flavor stuff, and like it's cool. It's just like, how many times are you gonna roll your 3 or maybe 2 defense dice because of piercing, and like see a 3, right? Like, it's
Yeah,
not
I-
very common. Like, you know, as common as any other number, I suppose. But
yeah, I mean, it's not great. It's
yeah,
not great.
your
But,
1s,
you know,
2s, and
it's-
4s are all misses.
But hey, I mean, listen, it gives you the opportunity, you know, if you're getting shot long range, to potentially
Sure.
take
sure.
a little less,
Yeah.
right? So maybe
It helps a
Maybe
little
it's good. In
I
some
think I would have much preferred this just be like a once per battle just a scratch, right? Like I don't know. Like Chaos Cult have it. Like I feel like Gellerpox at the very least should have something like that. But
it wouldn't feel out of place.
yeah, it just feels like they have less damage reduction than a team like Warpcoven, even after all the changes. So, yeah.
Everything else is changes to their Techno Curse rules.
Yeah. I guess I'll start off with this first paragraph here. So, they changed the overall Techno Curse ability to. So I'll just read it. At the end of the select operative step, you select a Techno Curse for your friendly operatives to gain for the battle. Whenever an enemy operative is within your selected Techno Curse's infection range, that enemy operative is affected by the symptoms of the selected Techno Curse. Each Techno Curse, its infection range and its symptoms are listed below. I think this was kind of just including like Volgrar's ability to take a second Techno Curse, I guess.
Okay.
So it was like clarifying that both Techno Curse things are applied. I don't know. I'm not very familiar either, so.
Interesting. Well, I'll go over a Barrel Warp. So, the infection range, within 2 inches of a friendly Gellerpox infected operative, excluding mutoid vermin, which are those the bugs?
Yeah, those are the bugs.
Okay. Or within 3 inches of a friendly Gellerpox infected glitchling operative.
That is it.
So it looks like
I believe it was just a control range before, right?
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so now it's just a little bit
Yep.
bigger. Okay,
No,
that's
it
good.
wasn't control range because it's ranged weapons. Maybe you.
I feel like this might have been like 2 inches from or from maybe just glitchlings, and they added in the normal operatives with it. I don't know.
Maybe.
Again, I have no idea because I didn't really know the team.
Another
before.
team we're not very well versed
Yep.
in.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of people were not really playing them either because.
Yeah. So
just
just know, Barrel Warp is now within 2 inches of everything, excluding the bugs, and 3 inches from glitchlings. That's what the change is.
Cool. All right, on to Screaming Rustspikes. Who would like to take a look at that?
I can go over that one. It's just the infection range within control range for friendly Gellerpox infected, excluding the bugs once again. That's the only thing.
Yep.
That's
I believe that these are just changing infection ranges.
I think so.
Oh, I see.
Like I'm not. That's the only thing that is highlighted on these pages. So.
Okay.
And then viral vox static. Again, the infection range is within 3 inches of all Gellerpox operatives, not including the bugs, or 4 inches from glitchlings. So, again, I think it's just an update to all of the infection ranges. I don't know if the infection ranges are new, and maybe it was just an overall infection range for all of them, and now they all have different infection ranges based on which one you take. I'm not entirely sure. You guys let us know in the comments below. Get us that algorithm going.
Loyalists.
Yeah,
Changed
yeah. Machine spirits. Woo.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, some good changes, but again, it, as Wayne kind of put it, well made.
Yeah. It's just, I think that they're just not in a great spot because there's so much damage going around, and they lost the biggest part of their damage reduction, and now it's, I don't know, the 18 wound Hulks feel like 20 wounds instead of 26, and that really hurts them. So.
All right. Well, that was Gellerpox Infected, and now we go to our very last team we're going to take a look at today, which is the Scout Squad. All right, so last but not least, the Scout Squad. It looks like they got 2 changes here.
I actually really like these changes. As somebody who was kind of looking at their rules this edition.
Yeah, I looked at these rules changes and I was like, oh, okay, I guess. I haven't seen Scouts in so long that like these changes, I don't know what to make of them. So I know it's not +1 operative, so everybody expecting that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I don't know, man.
Would've
Listen,
been nice,
they got a new forward scouting option, which is just to give a guy an extra APL, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, they also
That's good. Plus they've been given an
Yeah.
extra choice, so now they have up to 6 instead of 5. So I mean, it kind of it makes up for this. So it's like, here's an extra option, like you're probably taking it every time, right?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it is once per battle
not
as a
bad.
strategic gambit. You select a friendly and give them a +1 APL. So
Yeah,
not
I
bad.
see that being very helpful. And I mean, then their faction equipment also got a good change.
Is it
here.
+1 APL or is it +1 to its APL
it's the same.
stat? Is it a permanent increase?
It says
It's
until
whatever.
the end of that operative's next activation. So yeah, it's an APL.
Oh,
boost.
doesn't? Okay. Reading the rules, explain the rules. Who would have thought?
Then their faction equipment, the targeting oculars also got changed up to twice per turning point now. I believe it was just once before. And this is just when they're performing a shoot and you're selecting a target. You get lethal 5 and saturate. So the lethal 5 is new. That's pretty sweet. I think I can actually see that being very helpful for a lot of
I
weapons.
feel like this is a change that a lot of teams got, is gaining lethal 5, or at least enough.
What them investments,
Yeah.
right? But it's. Yeah,
I mean, and maybe this is on
think it's not
purpose
too bad.
for like the ignoring piercing stuff. Maybe it was just something to kind of go along with that. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe they're prepping for Fellgore Spring with all the lethal 5.
Listen, hey, all I'm saying is this is pretty dang good for a heavy gunner or like a sniper.
Oh, for
Yeah,
sure,
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Anything with
Pretty solid
crit,
for those
like
operatives.
weapon rules. So
Yeah. Pretty
Alright.
sweet.
Yeah.
So
Two
also
small
not to
buffs, but
mention,
they
Yeah.
seem solid.
not to mention, like imagine you get a blast with like the rocket launcher and you use lethal 5 on it, like on an open
yeah,
board.
unfortunately,
That's
you don't have a 10th operative to support that game plan or cool knives. So good luck getting charged and going down to 8 operatives.
You know, maybe soon.
Yeah, maybe
Who
another
knows?
6 months. Who knows?
Oh, don't say that, please. Please, please.
Alrighty.
Alright, so, no, not bad changes, but, you know.
It's a step in the right
Not bad.
direction. So
As
we've
many
been
of these
saying.
teams were,
Yeah.
they're
all we
all
can
good steps in
say.
the right directions.
Yeah.
So, that was all the teams. Now we can take a moment to kind of reflect on everything we saw today and kind of talk about our thoughts on just the whole bounce data slate as a whole. Okay, so that was a look at all of the teams, and overall, I think it was a decent bounce data slate, but I think the kind of sentiment between our group here is that we would have liked to have seen more, but not bad. I'm glad that the big ones got touched, like Warpcoven, Legionaries, Hierotek. Very glad to see.
I know a lot of people are very upset with this data slate, because they were expecting more from the buffs, and like I was talking about earlier with the guys, I guess kind of put it in perspective with like, don't compare your team's buffs to the other team's nerfs. You have to expect there to be a lot of change upcoming, and like know that, you know, like maybe your team does need more, but at this point GW doesn't want to like explode one team and overcorrect.
Mhm.
Now we've got another Legionaries or Warpcoven problem with like Breachers or Gellerpox, right? Like, so let's keep it nice and slow. Of course, I mean, you know, you always want to see your team get touched and get better, but again, I mean, just play it out. We'll figure out the meta together, you know?
Yeah, and who knows, 6 or 7 more months, maybe we'll see the change again.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Warpcoven
Yeah,
will
I
still
think
dominate
that-
for 6 months. I don't know.
I think the thing is, my biggest complaint with this is not so much what was in it, because I am overall pretty happy. Mine is based on the timing in which it came out, because I
that's
know
a
a lot
very
of people
common
were
sentiment.
really hoping to see it before LVO, which was
Yeah, that would've
common
been
last
nice.
edition. So maybe we'll be like back on track now that, you know, new year. But we'll see. Hopefully we don't have any more, like, large tournaments. We're really waiting for.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, things should be, I think, more balanced
Yeah.
now, so we shouldn't.
Hopefully
have
by
such a dominating
Adepticon,
top.
things have kind of, like, people have kind of played the course, they know what things do now.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I think
so
Adepticon's the next big
so
one, right?
let's
I think
let's
so.
be honest here. This is, I mean, of course, it's the first data slate of the edition, so things are going to be changed in weird ways. But at the same time, I mean, like, think about this, like, going into this edition, right? Everything is different now. Like, a lot of teams are different, and the meta is going to shift a lot. And we might see weird teams come up and be better than they were before, right? Like, I fully expect like players who are good with Kroot and Vespids can take them pretty far now. Aquilons and Khazarkin might see play more because they have better play into elves and better play into elites now. So I don't know. Who knows? We'll just have to see what happens and play it out. So play it by ear.
Only way to find out is to play. So get out there and play, guys. Like,
get to tournaments too. Bring different teams because I mean that's how they get their statistics. So if you want to see something change, like just
be the change you really want to see in this world.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you really like the team, just take them. You don't have to worry about taking the top thing and trying to destroy it. Just bring what you want. Give them the statistics.
One thing I did want to kind of cover here at the end is like me personally, I've got 4 teams now I'm looking at like playing competitively with this data slate. Mandrakes are one. I'm also kind of interested in Aquilons because they have the punching power against elites now. Of course, Hunter Clade, I always go back to them and try them out when they get changed. And Chaos Cult, because I'm interested to see if those 2 changes are enough to bring them back. What about you guys? Like, are you guys interested in other teams now? Or are you guys sticking with the same ones? Like, what are your guys' thoughts on the changes here?
That's a good question. I'm very happy to see what happened to Deathcore, so I'm very interested in trying them out again. To be honest, it's been a while, but I think they'd be a lot of fun.
And I am actually really hyped. So they didn't really change, but Brood Brothers, I'm actually really excited to play because before I felt like I couldn't play them at tournaments, just because like I just get stomped by the top. But now I feel like they probably have play. So like I'm actually really excited to take them, and then possibly Star Striders as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so lots of testing that has to go on, lots of practice, and see what things feel like, and I don't know, like...
I'm excited.
You'll find those weird strats and abilities. That
if you have any concerns about these changes, or you really want to share some weird random strats with some new rules or new tech, hit us up in the comments. We always try to reply.
Yeah, we'd love to hear it.
Help us with the algorithm, keep us going.
Yeah, and continue to do all that great stuff. Comment, like, subscribe, hit notifications, and thank you all for listening.
Rattlings coming soon.
Yeah,
they will be coming next. We were waiting for this balanced day slate, so now that they're out, we'll hopefully
be jamming some
battle
more
reports. Consistent with these. Can't wait. All right. Well, continue to watch Six-Sided Legion, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
See ya.